Everyone. So my name's Jo Allen. I'm the Corporate Resourcing Manager at Leicester City Council. I've been at the council for about 13 years for my sins, not always in recruitment, not always in HR, but I've seen quite a lot of changes during that 13 years. To give you a bit of organisational context, traditionally we were a recruitment team, so very transactional. We actually sat in finance and not in HR. And so it was kind of like a business service centre where, effectively it was just a processing of recruitment requisitions. So that's where we were. As obviously we've had austerity measures, lots of service rationalisation. We've obviously had to change that model because, it's no longer about transactional recruitment, it's about the added value stuff. Within my remit, I also look after our agency contracts, so our agency spend and also our consultancy spend, which is about £12 million a year. So quite a lot of savings to be had if we can get the right people in without having to pay a premium. So about 2 years ago we moved back into HR, and we quickly realised that we'd not really got the infrastructure, the correct team in place, not the right systems. We had outdated policies, we'd got no employer brand, so that was something that I was tasked with to look at. And in terms of our hiring process, we used to have to fill in 10 forms, it would take 12 weeks, and obviously there was a lot of frustration from our managers from that. So what were we doing about it? So we looked at our resourcing strategies. So one of those was our employer branding. We looked at entry to employment, so our graduate strategy and our apprenticeship strategy. Career pathways, so we started to work with all of our services in looking at how people join that career and where they can go. Succession and workforce planning and talent management, and I'll talk about each of those individually. So we created an employer brand for Leicester City Council that would hope to position us as a more attractive employer. And obviously we wanted to attract the top talent with the right values and the right cultural fit. And primarily we wanted data to inform those resourcing strategies. So we looked at our employer branding, what was going to be the contractual stuff, so your benefits and obviously the compensation. What could we do in the development side, so our careers and well-being, and what was our purpose, what was our visions and what was our values, and how could we articulate those. So we created, I was using that as a mouse then, created a new careers site, which hopefully will open up.
It might be a presenter's view, so I just...
Sorry to be a pain. Brilliant. So this is our new career site. So everyone on this site is one of our employees. And basically we looked at all of the job families that we have within the organisation and got an ambassador for each of those job families that could articulate what it's like to work within that department or within that job family. And we looked at all the different case studies of people that actually work with us so they could tell their stories as well. One of the biggest things that I'm sure we all struggle with is competing against the public-private sector. So what we really wanted to do is articulate what our benefits were. So we created what we call a benefits calculator. That's our head of HR. So we've got our rewards and benefits, which we're kind of articulating those in a conversational tone, but in terms of a benefits calculator. So effectively what someone can do is put in the base salary. So say for example, if we put in 30,000, and then they can select what benefits they would also have on top of that. So already it's added on their holiday pay and their pension contributions, but say for example they're also going to have childcare vouchers. They can tick that if they're going to have car parking, and it then builds that package. So effectively, if they were to be offered a job in the private sector and with us, we can actually say, well, actually, this package is worth £45,000. It's not just your £30,000 take-home pay. So managers have found that as a really useful tool to have a conversation with people. Obviously, we are constrained by our job evaluation scheme, so it's not we can give you an extra couple of £1,000 and, you know, come to us. But actually, this has enabled them to have that conversation, to talk to people about that. So we found that this is fairly new. We only launched the website in March, but it's worked really well up to now. Let me go back to my presentation. We've also started looking at career pathways, and we've mapped these across the apprenticeship framework, so that any manager can use this as a template to look at their service and define what the entry points are and where the ultimate goal is, and then look at what qualifications and experience aligns to that, what grades or salary would be appropriate, what the apprenticeship level is, and what the actual apprenticeship and the duration is, so that that will ultimately aid them in workforce and succession planning, but also it helps them identify an entry to employment, which is something that we're really focusing on at the moment. So as I said, we're working on succession and workforce planning, and data is at the heart of that. So we've created a new MI team within HR, and that is fundamental to every piece of work that we're doing. So our head of HR is a very data-driven person, to say the least. So everything is being produced for managers, for directors. So we're looking at dashboards that can predict, you know, in 5 years, this is what your workforce is going to look like, how many people are going to fall over the age of 55. And so we can really start to have those conversations that, to be honest, our managers have never thought of before, which is quite scary. We're also looking at a talent management strategy. So we've just implemented a new performance management framework, and that looks at having quality conversations with all employees, and that looks at having a talent management conversation every year. So identifying where the person is and where they'd like to go, what their aspirations are, and then having that discussion about how we can support them in that development. And obviously that again is used with our workforce planning strategy and framework, so that we can see who's coming up through the ranks and identify potential that's coming through. And that's it.
With Thank you.
Thank you.